It's always nice when things turn on properly. It's always a worry of mine. I've got a ray gun today. I'm pretty badass. What's the actual name of this ray gun, Curtis?
That there is called the Vatek Easy Ray Air Portable. Boom.
Boom. Sweet. Awesome. Live back, not live, maybe live.
Sort of.
I'm back in studio today, and you can hear somebody else in here with me.
Hey, Mark.
He's here. It's the guy. We're just going to get right to this. I'm excited today because if I can figure stuff out again, we're going to get the music off. We're just going to get right to it here. Oh, wrong screen. We might be talking about something like that. Curtis Taylor from Vatek joining me in studio today, and it's always a challenge. I'm challenged right now.
Are you?
I think so.
You seem like you got it all under control.
That's the illusion.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's all just an illusion.
Nobody has it under control. And maybe some people have it somewhat figured out.
That's right. Yeah.
It's Anyways, let's hear a little bit about yourself. I know you have some history with Sinclair.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the dental. You've been in the dental industry a long time.
Yeah. So my name's Curtis Taylor. I've been in the industry for
there you are
18 years now. It's quite an interesting story, actually. My mother worked for a company out of Montreal called Cinca, and Cinca were the ones who brought DEXIS sensors into Canada, right when digital was becoming a thing. This is before internet connections in offices. This is me driving out to Kelowna to solve the tiniest of errors, including how to turn a computer on.
So like your mom asking like to help with her iPad type
that's
stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. So my mom worked in Vancouver. Her name's Lynn, and again, she was tasked with selling this digital equipment in a market that wasn't ready for digital. So she required myself to help install things, mount things to walls. And again, these dentists we interacted with were at really the bleeding cutting edge of this technology, willing to take risks to develop and showcase that they really care about the future of their dental clinic. And so through that experience, I actually got an interview at a bar with someone at Sinclair, and we had a good meal, good drink, and we shook hands, and I became a technician. And that was before things were a little bit more complicated. Now,
yeah, everything it just seems as time moves along.
Yes,
let's just complicate things more and more.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Versus my hiring experience at Vatek was about a 4-month-long process.
Really?
Interviews, background checks.
I get it. People want the right person.
Yeah, that's right.
So they gotta really do their investigation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Sinclair, and at that time, it's a family-run organization at Sinclair, and the founder of it, Arjang Notash, passed away unfortunately around 5-6 years ago. But he allowed me to do multiple things within the company. First and foremost was servicing. I fixed statums, I fixed X-ray heads, and then he saw that I had a thing with digital, right? So I became the installer there. Then that led to sales, and doing that for a long time, education.
So you got a little bit of a history with digital. You were just mentioning as I was setting up the studio that you used to mix beats.
Oh yeah. So
you can make some for the show. You should make me a new intro.
Yeah, it was a hobby of mine for sure, and then just like anything, had kids and a wife and business, so a little bit less focused on that. But yeah, it was a passion of mine for some time.
That's so cool. What other what's your favorite piece of technology outside of dentistry? What has changed your world?
To me, on the music side was the MPC. It allowed people like myself who had no real classical understanding of music to jump onto a machine with little pads and just play around, essentially just mimicking what hip hop producers were doing back in the day. And that to me, it made music accessible for someone that didn't understand music classically.
Yeah. By the way, these chairs are like the most uncomfortable chairs.
I got a big butt.
I know.
so-
Yeah. We always get that. It just it keeps you awake.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
why we do it. It's super uncomfortable. Anyways, I digress. That's cool. So flash forward, you're now, you've moved on to this new position. You've been with Vautech now for 4 months. How's that been? What's your experience with them? Like, I'll be quite honest.
Mhm.
I haven't had much exposure to Vautech, so this is kind of cool for me to learn a little bit more behind the scenes with what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, being being at Sinclair for so long, it was amazing. I got to understand multiple brands really intimately. The value that I provided to the customers were my knowledge of these brands and coming at it in an unbiased way. Here's my opinion on these. If you want to listen to me and take my advice to heart. And one of the products I was really focused on was Vautech, and we introduced Vautech at Sinclair exclusively around 14 years ago. And at that time, again, South Korean company. Why we were attracted to them was that they manufacture all their own components. So that's really, that's what makes Vautech, and that's why I decided to move to that company, because companies who control their manufacturing process can really set the pace of innovation, set price points, do special promotions, engineer products that would otherwise be not available.
Sure.
And I noticed the last probably 5-6 years, a lot of companies just rebranding the same piece of equipment, just maybe putting a different plastic on the outside, putting a different stamp.
Are
on
you
it.
speaking about a particular scanner that I'm aware of?
There's lots. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, every industry is going through this, right?
White labeling things is a thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I wasn't attracted to that. I wanted a company that did that. And the story about how Sinclair and Vautech were married was quite interesting. It was at a time where Sinclair Dental had no special exclusive products. We were looking for something new and innovative, and the owner of the company, with my mother, Lynn Naden, they went to the IDS, the largest show for dental, and they went to at that time they were called EWU. They went to the EWU booth, and it was just busier than all the other booths. It was absolutely, people stumbling over each other to get in this thing. And they made a deal with this South Korean company to be exclusive. We went through lots of hardships. The support aspect was difficult, but they've worked through that, and it's just been it's when I looked at all of the things I sold at Sinclair, it was the thing that caused me the least amount of grief.
Sure, we always go like the path of the easiest,
Yes.
like the least resistance. It's a human nature thing.
I think so, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm also willing to have a challenge, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to the point where you're banging your head off the ground, right?
That's right. I think there comes a point, and especially if you don't control aspects of the production, it really becomes difficult to work around those items.
And I think that that reflects when it becomes to the end user, where if the support's there or the infrastructure is not there to support the product, like selling it may be a challenge, but like imagine working with that particular piece of equipment where, the widget that needs to go in the wire.
Yeah.
It's always the sensor. It's manufactured in who knows where.
Yeah.
It's going to be here in a couple months. Well, I got a patient coming in tomorrow. That's not good enough, right? So to have control over the full line from bottom to top, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting when you interact with dentists, especially dentists that are kind of first on the scene, kind of how they think of us as salespeople as kind of like they're all just trying to get our business.
So let's get into that, because like on LinkedIn, I did some research on you. You coin yourself as a digital educator.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that conversation go? And let's start off with the guy just building his practice. Like, we're looking at a time and age where all of these pieces of equipment are becoming standard practice. Mm-hmm. And there's such an array, there's such a spectrum of practices out there now, from walking in and seeing those paper charts up in the back
Yep, still have that.
to, texting that your appointment's ready. You go in, you sit in the chair, get your treatment, and you walk out and your payment's already been processed. And the x-rays that have happened are already imported into the practice management software.
Yeah.
So how does that conversation go? Because what these dentists are learning in school, I don't think the education is keeping up with where the technology is at, especially when we now include AI. And we're going to get into that. And something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I think, when we meet new office or new potential clients that are building offices, we always got to consider, just like any good salesperson, any good consultant, I'm asking them multitude of questions. I mean, the standard still seems to be a digital pan with some sensors or a phosphor plate system, depending on, do you see lots of pedo patients? Are you more focused on, elderly? But it seems like now every dentist wants to have a massive scope of opportunity, no matter what the age is, no matter where they are.
Well, they don't want to limit themselves, right?
Yeah.
If they bring an associate in or whatever, the future proofing.
That's right. And I mean, I think most dentists, when they meet with us, undersell themselves. Like, the common practice now is, hey, I want to build out 8 operatories. I want a future CBCT, but I'm going to just start with 3 operatories, right?
Yeah, I see that quite often.
I understand. I mean, I'm very frugal when it comes to my money, so I understand that. But I feel like they're underselling themselves, and in most cases, we're seeing these offices being built out to their full capacity way sooner than they expected. Mm-hmm. Their patient base is increasing, and really a problem with just how do we fit these patients in here? Mm-hmm. One of my questions on the digital side is always, are you future planning for CBCT? So there's quite a bit of a process involved depending on which province you're in. So most of what I'm doing is educating the doctor on those steps. How do we get your office in compliance so that you don't get shut down when the radiation people come by? And that includes working with design teams, with contractors that specialize in this. So even if you're starting with a 2D product and upgrading, we just want to we don't want to have a contractor come back in there 3 years from now, gut it open, repaint. There's no point, right? So I would say at Sinclair, it was like 99% of offices would have a future-proofed CBCT area with the intention at some point to go there.
Maybe it's like a photo room until
that's right.
Yeah, or something like that. What bare minimum, what pieces of equipment, technology does a new practice need to have to compete, to really drive their scope of practice, to just keep up with the times?
Yeah, again, so it's oftentimes we're met with a doctor that has a budget in mind. They have a wish list of all the things that they saw in school that they're exposed to, CBCT, hard tissue laser, sensors, scanner. And then oftentimes once you get down to the, 6 months out, your budget has been squeezed because of all these unexpected costs, typically with contracting and permits. So, I mean, the most fundamental on the base level would be a 2D pan, a couple sensors. And I used to not say this, but I really do feel impression scanners are a necessary item now.
iOS, yeah.
Yeah, because even though, my company doesn't play in that space, if you're starting out, you're having a bunch of staff. And that's the other thing is when you first open up and you have new staff, you're setting the foundation of what you want your office to look like. You don't want to continually change softwares or ways that you run the business. I mean, you will. But that initial training with the staff and your concept is super important. So I believe an intraoral scanner should be part of a new practice for sure.
Like you get into some cases where you get deep margins, you need to pull out the impression material, but they call that like being a two-gun. Is the two-gun dentist where you got your iOS and your impression material gun, right? Anyways,
I mean, I was a huge fan of 3Shape. Again, I don't affiliate with them anymore, but the doctors we worked with, they were 95% scanner, and the only time they used the impression material was for the rare instance, right? So,
what's your take? What's your take on all this chair side, like the mill and the 3D printer?
I think I think it's huge. I think 3D printing is going to take over milling. I think milling will be left in
Yeah.
the dust very soon. I mean,
Yeah.
there's companies like SprintRay and Formlabs, and I know some other companies that are, the investment seems to be on the resin and how to make it a more
Materials thing.
Yeah,
It's
materials.
always been,
Right now, basically crowns that are produced from these 3D printers are considered kind of temp crowns. They're
Sure.
long-term temp crowns. Some patients can get away with like 4 or 5 years with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for the same qualities as zirconia, I don't think it'll maybe ever get there. But I think as a patient, I would like the opportunity to decide, do I want a premium,
Sure.
high-end crown or a more affordable?
The bestest situation.
Or if I'm going to Mexico and I'm going to a wedding and I just need something done quickly, why not just produce it? And the ability to reproduce the same crown, the same thing over and over, or a night guard. You lost your night guard, just print 20 of them. Who cares? It's so it allows the dentist to control. It's a new revenue generation, and the way that the big hang up used to be on the design side, right? Like the doctor would be sitting there spending hours after work. I don't have time for this. Now artificial intelligence is like just taking over that whole space. So
this is where I have tons of friends in the laboratory world, and they're all changing how they do business, based on this technology that's out. The the chairside mill, especially like posterior crowns, are their bread and butter. Like it's 80% of their business. This technology it's changing the game and it's getting better. I argue that the 3D printer, I think it's an inevitable thing. Like it's a materials thing. It's a layering. It's an accuracy thing where eventually we'll be able to 3D print like a monolithic crown with all the anatomy underneath. It will look like I just think that technology will eventually get there. If we look at the Wright brothers, right?
Yeah.
You learn how to, we learned how to fly, and 60 years later we're landing on the moon. And sorry if you don't believe that we actually went to the moon, but I'm with the team that believes that
a podcast for another day.
That's another one. That's Joe Rogan's podcast. We won't go there. But I'm a hopeful type person. I love technology, and I think you're looking at it's a dollars and cents thing. Like obviously you got to look at the clinician's time. Do they want to manage and run these machines, or have somebody on their staff manage and run it? Will they be able to produce a crown better than a laboratory? Probably not.
No.
Some of these registered dental technicians have been doing, and they're all family run businesses that have been doing it for years. I think eventually what will happen will be you're going to have the laboratory doing more boutique full mouth. And then there's going to be sort of a share on the work on the single unit stuff, posterior, perhaps the laboratory will handle all the design, or there'll be a separate design service doing that. And they're working in collaboration. It's all about the patient outcome, right? So if they're scanning with that intraoral scan, sending it to the design service or the laboratory, they're collaborating. They can do that live, right? This is the sweetest thing. Even when they're in the chair, sometimes I've seen that happen. It's really cool. Doc, you need to work on whatever surface area it is, remove a little bit more, just so that veneer or crown snaps in that much better, or it could last that much longer. I think more than anything, the iOS is it's a great communication tool, and it's also a great tool. A lot of the technology baked in, some of these scanners have all these interesting ways to show the patient, caries lesions, right? Caries detection, or now we're stitching scans over time, and we're seeing that deterioration. And when folks could see that up on the screen,
it's wild.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And if we talk about for the dentist side of things, the radiography is getting that much better too. And the more you can see, And now I'm talking too much.
No, it's all good.
Like now we're having AI circling things for us, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Vautech, a company, our focus is digital imaging, X-ray equipment. We have locations in 70 countries. It's a global company, constantly research and developing. We take 30% of our revenue, put it towards that. So we can innovate things like artificial intelligence in our viewing software. We have the carbon nanotechnology that allows us to use this portable X-ray head. Very lightweight.
It is actually.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk about that. I think, in Western Canada, we're able to use portable X-ray heads in offices. I think that's important to know. There's a lot of misconceptions about that.
Oh, so is it not fully like...
Well, they Health Canada took a long time to approve the Nomad, which is from a competitor of mine.
What is it with Health Canada?
Yeah, well,
it always help. I know. There's this great thing, material,
Yes.
piece of equipment. It's with Health Canada.
It's on this side. I actually appreciate the time that they take,
Sure,
because it actually lets the United States go through all the growing pains.
Sure,
like the amount of changes they've made to this X-ray head that we're seeing here is plentiful over time.
Yeah.
And so when the Canadian market receives these products, they're typically, absolutely dialed in. The support side, we know the problems, we know how to solve them.
I like that perspective. That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are dentists that want the most cutting edge. I know dentists that are importing materials that are not available here. We've got clever ways. We live right next to the border. Lots of things can happen.
I hear things. Yeah. I've been sworn like my family will be murdered.
Yeah, me too. That's no names. No names. I'm not a narc.
Yeah.
No narc.
Yeah.
I was consulting with an office. They're building an office in Nanaimo. It's going to be a huge practice. It's for BC. It's over 10 operatories, quite a bit more than that. I won't get into too many details, but they're planning. What we're noticing on dental plans is they're becoming smaller and smaller. They're trying to eliminate as many cabinets per operatory in some cases. You still have the normal office that's, your ADEC equipment or Belmont or whatever open concept. But when we see these tiny operatories, and especially after COVID, this idea of closing the operatories in, right? Maybe this pandemic happens again, which God help us if that happens. But we start to look in the operatory. Now we got an overhead light. We've got a chair with a huge delivery. Now we got an X-ray head. Mm-hmm. Now we're multiplying. We're not even putting pass-throughs to share X-ray heads. So the office is going to have to buy 12 to 16 individual X-ray heads with wiring that the contractor has to put in, backing, versus getting one or two of these portable X-ray heads and just walking around and doing it that way. So
what's the hang up with these? Are they do they... is it dependent on Wi-Fi? Obviously, we're wireless.
No. It's just...
Does it store the data and then you're plugging it in?
No. So this device just produces the radiation. The sensor sits inside the patient's mouth. And
Yes.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So again, it's just eliminating that wall mount X-ray with that big long arm. It just allows people to move thoroughly. The hang up with it would be, we want you to consult. If you're a doctor and you're thinking about putting this in, have someone like myself or the competition talk to your staff, because it's more of a psychological boundary, right? Even though it's been Health Canada approved, even though it says it's 100% safe, and Dan Hansen and the BCDA and all these regulatory bodies are totally fine with it. If you have that one staff member that is reluctant because they think or perceive that they're getting radiation, we have a big problem. Right. Because when we're looking at dental offices, what I'm seeing is staffing issues are number one, paramount. Mm-hmm. So the last thing you want to do is interrupt that whole thing with a product that may frustrate them. But from a business perspective, from a safety perspective, it's more than safe. It's, again, Health Canada puts it through the ringer. So again, if you consult with your staff and you have an understanding, then this could be a great solution.
So here, I'm going to redeem myself on the whole radiation thing. Picture this thing as a flashlight. So X-rays are a form of light rays, and they shoot the rays this way out of it.
Correct.
Would that be a correct assessment?
100%.
Have I redeemed myself?
You absolutely have.
Yes!
Yeah.
I'm still a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, when clearly, especially when I start selling CBCTs, the question come up about radiation, how much dosage is occurring, and if you have,
do we like with the equipment of today? Do we even have to worry about microsieverts? I know some of these, full cone beams, they're taking less shots than going for a 3-hour flight down to California or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
how many bananas is it? Right?
Yeah. It's when you do put things in perspective. One of the funny things I saw was not funny, but smoking a pack of cigarettes a day is about 4 times your daily radiation exposure.
Who can afford that hobby anymore?
Yeah, who does that? You're right. Bananas output a ton of radiation. But yeah, in the day in the life, if you really understand it, I have a graph that shows daily radiation, full mouse series, pan. Really, it's negligible, but you could also have the argument that every microsievert counts, right?
Sure,
So I can't, what we can say is that scan times for all CBCTs and PANs are really low at this point comparative to where they were. The dosage levels decreased, the image quality's increased. Most offices, they have a concern because they care about their patients, and when it's explained to them, they typically have no problem.
Yeah, not to sound careless, I guess. Yeah, we have to consider the amount over time is sort of like that's the benchmark, I guess, we're looking at.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's important. I think it's important to understand, especially if you're having, a lot of the hygienists I meet with, assistants, they really care about the patients, right? Mm-hmm. They've heard their concerns. Maybe they've going through cancer treatment. They're really, really want to make sure that everything they do in the office is necessary first and foremost, and limits the amount of radiation exposure. So I need to accommodate that. So we provide graphs that we send when we're doing training.
There's even some products out in the market that I'm probably butchering the actual name of it, like transillumination. It lights the tooth up like a light bulb, and then you could see those carious lesions. Even interproximal where there's zero radiation, and it's good to sort of set you up to look in an area. I know it's not, you can't use that as like a proper diagnosis with insurance maybe yet. Maybe there's needs more clinical trial out there.
Well, if you're waiting for insurance to cover something, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Sure. Yeah. It's a business that doesn't want to pay out.
That's but you're totally right. I think especially when it comes to pediatrics, right? We're ultra concerned about our children being exposed, having something like an iTero that we scan, we're able to see caries, and then advise the parent at that point that we need to take a radiograph to understand it better, because that's the number one way to see caries. You can try to do all these other things, and they do a decent job, and they're good at discovering. But the ultimate, how deep has the infection gone? All of those things can only really be seen by an image through a radiograph.
When I look at it, when I have conversations with family members and stuff, the ones that I won't say any names here again, the ones that haven't been to the dentist in 10 years, right? Those folks. Yeah. The knowledge base on what they're actually doing with them in the chair, and their experience being 10 years ago with all these tools now that are available, I think it's awesome. I think having the conversation where it's bringing it down to layman's terms. I remember, as a kid being in the chair, you got, I got a cavity, right? And, you have the dentist, you got a 4.7 on MO5 on 2, you got a 7.72, having, the dentist talking to the CDA, and you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds bad. Yeah. But now the ability to have that up on the screen, and the dentist going, look, Mark, right here in between these two teeth, I'm going to zoom in here, and it's full screen. Mm-hmm. You have a cavity that's forming here. We're going to watch it, or we're going to have to get you in, or whatever that might be.
Totally.
Not only that, subgingival too, now you can see what's happening with the root systems and all that. Mm-hmm. If people are using these tools, we talk about case acceptance all the time. Dentist on Demand, accepting treatment. I feel like I'm a sales, if I'm trying to push this patient into treatment, it's no, like what happens? I'll let you answer this. What happens with a patient if they don't do something with something that's going on in their mouth?
Yeah, I mean, commonly we see like failed endo, last ditch, we extract, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor proposes implant.
Yeah.
The doctor proposes bridge. And then the doctor says, this is what's going to happen when you do nothing.
Yeah.
And softwares like 3Shape and iTero are able to scan that patient right when you've extracted the tooth.
Yeah.
They come back 6 months later, you scan again, you see it slowly moving.
Yeah.
And then again, and it keeps moving and keeps moving. So it's not a subjective kind of, this is what I think, or it's just, this is actually happening.
It's fact.
Yeah. And I love that.
And it was fact before.
Yes, of course.
But now you can clearly demonstrate fact. And I think, in anything in life, if you can see clear black and white progression or information to make a decision, an informed decision,
huge.
It's a game changer. So
it's so funny because I remember, I swear, like it was like 15 years ago, intraoral cameras, and they used to be on like these little trolleys with like a CCTV TV, like a big tube one. And, of course, it makes total sense if they see the crack, and insurance will cover it, the patient will accept it. And I was always saying this about like, why is it when I take my car into Budget Brake and Muffler, they just don't take a picture? Like I'm on the road and they're asking me to spend $800 on a new this and that. Just take a picture and I'll probably just say yes right away.
If we're talking about like the most like vulnerable state of any human, it's bringing their car into a dealership.
Well, it's the same.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Curtis. It's going to be $2,500.
That's right. Well, it's the same as a patient going into a dent. Like you have no idea. Just like you said, it's the verbiage they're using is alien. You're expected to trust this person. Yeah. Maybe your mom went there, but now what we're seeing is there's not that much loyalty to doctors either. There are people that are attracted to the look of an office. If you're an office and you're not updating things, maybe it's an intraoral scanner, maybe it's an X-ray, whatever, patients will start to educate themselves and move possibly.
I do see that like loyalty thing, and that's an unfortunate thing. Loyalty amongst humans is like human nature. Let's go with the better guy down the street or whatever. But I do argue that there is a lot of loyalty out there still. Why not invest in your patients? 100%. Invest in treating your patients better.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say better.
Gooder.
Gooder. I don't want to offend anyone, obviously, but that's what this is. This is like enhancing your ability to take care of people,
Yeah, I mean, when we started introducing impression scanners, it would always be the conversation started with, well, how much is this going to save me on impression material? I mean, it's natural, right?
Well, that's a silly conversation now because like it's so not the impression conversation.
Correct.
And that's shitty. It's like it's a terrible way now we have to backtrack. And like I talked to Faraj, had this conversation with Faraj Edher, and I think he nailed it. Like, I know you're going with this and I cut you off and I'm sorry.
You do.
But we started off selling the intraoral scanner as a replacement for impression material. And the shame is that the iOS is now so much more than that.
100%. And again, if you take that same mentality of patient focus, and you just try to imagine this patient with maybe semi-mobile teeth having to take a goopy impression, hold this thing in their mouth. It's like, no one likes that. You can try to convince yourself that's, or like, I remember them, doctors would be like, oh, like the 3Shape wand is a bit bigger. I'm like, you're putting a tray the size of a horseshoe in the patient's mouth with goop, having them like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So sometimes they don't, it's just like offices, doctors who come through the back door in their clinic every day. They never come through the front door. They don't understand what the patient's seeing. Like, you sometimes have to like rejig your brain and go, do I need an update? Maybe it's patient centric, maybe it's money, but technology typically has a place in that.
Yeah. And isn't it fun?
Oh man, I think that
maybe not for some though, I guess. Well, is that the standoffishness against it? Like, I think some people just do not have the vernacular for technology.
I think one of the biggest things that happens is, and I was guilty of this when I started, is salespeople setting expectations incorrectly.
Okay.
I think it's the number one, and I understand why dentists are standoffish to us, because they've experienced this where someone, this is the next thing. This is so easy. Don't even worry. You don't even need training, and they use it, and it's now sitting in a corner collecting dust. Like I have pangs of anxiety when I go into an office. I see how many like drill sets and endo sets, and I used to use this one, but now I'm moving to this one. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I think as salespeople, if you're listening to this, is really just being honest with people.
Be responsible.
100%.
Yeah.
Because, I've been doing this for 18 years. I want to be in this industry for my whole life. I mean, my integrity is so important. So I don't mind losing the deal. I just want to make sure people are very aware of, I'm telling them all the cons, like even with this x-ray head here, right? Like I'm telling them, you need to consult all of your staff. Because if you introduce this and they're not going to use it, it's going to sit in the corner
100%.
And collect dust.
So as part of that, some of that is like support.
Huge.
Like the training that, are they dropping off a box sort of situation?
All the products that we're selling now are, in my opinion, most of them are like pretty ironed out, right? Like they're in clinics, they've been used. But a lot of it, if you set the expectation with the doctor that this is going to be the easiest thing, and you can use this impression scanner, for example, on every patient, and you'll just do it in 1 minute, and it doesn't, well, then their whole experience from that point forward is just not great, right? Versus you saying to them, this is going to be a challenge. Mm-hmm. Unlike digital radiography that you introduced to your office like 5 years ago, where your staff are the people dealing with that. Mm-hmm. And all you do is complain if the x-ray is good or bad, and you just see the end result. Now you're actually handling the thing.
Sure.
Now you're actually having to use it in some cases.
Angling it, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, the typical offices that do well with the scanners, for example, intraoral scanners, let their assistants really...
Oh, for sure.
And give them the power. Like, hey, you're the super user in this clinic. I want to empower you. You're going to do that.
I think, especially with the intraoral scanner, I think even the hygienist should learn how to use 100%. It. I think they should be doing a scan part of the hygiene appointment. Huge. You're getting a digital record of each patient. That is huge. And how painless is it to do an intraoral scan? Some of these people have it dialed down to like a 2-minute.
Oh, huge.
Full both arch, right?
Yeah, I mean, you go to ortho clinics that are just pumping this stuff out. iTero, 3Shape, whoever. I mean, they're flying. Mm-hmm. The time is not. It's just it takes some time, right? But that's funny. With hygienists, they're typically standoffish, and they're standoffish because they're like, "Hey, I've got this amount of time. Mm-hmm. I got to get all this done. I now do this and this. I don't." Right? They don't want to add anything.
Well, this is the thing too. This is where it's like that. Yeah, I respect that, mm-hmm. but we're working together in this office as a team. Mm-hmm. We're doing this so that we're taking care of the patient.
Correct.
I appreciate that you have all these things, but you work harder in your area and do the things that the entire office does, and everybody else does that. It's such a better environment.
But the difference, I think, is a doctor who just, this is what we're using now.
Sure, yeah.
Versus, again, the consultative, again, it's not the inmates running the asylum.
Yes.
It's a consultative...
The dictatorship.
100%. And one of the best things doctors can do is if they're thinking about incorporating this, is just bring the manufacturer rep in, bring a digital specialist in, have them explain and show the hygienist what value is garnered through this technology.
Yeah. And goodness, we're talking about, you're supporting this product. That's a service that you should be providing.
Huge.
If somebody, like, especially we're talking about, staff turnover. If there's somebody new to the office and they need to be trained on this particular piece of equipment, mm-hmm. there should be some support there for that new personnel to come through to hop on with a manufacturer rep mm-hmm. and go through the piece of equipment.
100%. I think it's the number one thing is the training, right? I mean, all the products that we include are hands-on training. We pride ourselves on that. We are getting to a point, though, where a lot of the products I sell specifically are so they're just dialed in so easily that, for instance, I did a CBCT training online, and they took one shot, and they're like, "Okay, thank you, that's good. We're good."
They get it. Yeah.
So, sure. And the amount of and what also happened through COVID, which was a blessing for me, is my team at Vautech created individual videos for each component that we sell.
Perfect.
And these aren't 40-minute long videos. They're just very direct to the point. You have new staff. Here, review these videos. Yeah. And honestly, I hear very little after
You know what? Here's a tip out there for you. Like if we look at things like do-it-yourself videos on YouTube, where it's not like, we don't need this big introduction. Just show us, say, step 1.
Yes.
Turn the machine to this point.
Yeah.
If you're taking this, turn it to this. Right? And it's
Seriously.
Just step by step. Step 3, pause it if you have to. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
We're segueing here. Let's get into Vautech. Let's hear about like the exciting things that are going on.
Yeah. So again, the main attraction to this company, their manufacturing processes. So when a company like ours has 161 patents, we have 30% of our revenue going to research and development. We're able to really set the pace of innovation. So the newest piece of innovation is the carbon nanotube head. Okay, so that's a long way of saying almost all other X-ray heads that you see have to have oil that surrounds a larger tube. It's heavier. They need cool down time. Vautech actually created an entire compound in South Korea because the people at Vautech were like, hey, we need a portable X-ray head, but we don't want one that's as heavy as the competition. The biggest drawback right now in the North American market was the weight of the holder or the X-ray head. So so they created an entire compound. They engineered and researched and developed and literally created the first carbon nanotube. That allows it to be less weight. Yeah. It allows it to have no cool down time. And they incorporate that same technology in their wall-mounted X-ray heads. And they're about to come out with a large field of view device that will be a mix between dental CT and medical CAT scan.
Oh, wow.
So real extreme detail. Their product that was launched recently was the Green X CBCT. And it offers the most finite voxel size in dental. It's 0.05 voxel. It probably doesn't mean much to many people, but if you're talking about endo and you want to see those hairline fractures, the most minute detail, the smaller the voxel size, the better the image.
What is like, explain what voxel size is?
So it's like pixels, but it's in a 3D cube.
Gotcha.
So the smaller the amount of the more amount of cubes you have, and the smaller they are, the more detail rich they're going to be.
I follow completely. Yeah, that makes sense.
It does take up more storage. Like a 4x4 endo shot from our Green X is almost 1 gig.
Oh, what?
It's absolutely crazy.
That's massive.
Yeah. But when you see dentists that have been, using generic CBCTs or anything up to this date, their brains are exploding. Like, it's just absolutely insane.
So let's talk about storage then.
Yeah.
Like, at 1 gig, where are they storing all this? Is there a cloud service that's available? Like, what?
I mean, look, I remember starting this 18 years ago, and storage was like huge. Like, you want me to buy a server, and a terabyte didn't even exist, right?
Yeah.
We're really at the point where these doctors now have like racks of servers.
We're talking pentabytes now, right?
Yeah. Like, pretty much. I mean, there's a million different options for offsite cloud-based storage. Still the typical is just a couple external hard drives. They're kind of backing things up. And,
I know. I've got like this little. It's like this big, and it's 10 terabytes or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
So storage, that's not a huge concern for most people anymore. And again, I sometimes get some pushback. They're like, why is the file size so large? I'm like, you want the detail, right?
Yes.
Well, why do I need a special graphics card? You want the segmentation and the AI, right?
Or it's like, the frame back to old school, like you're loading up, you're on a site, or it's like the image is just
totally.
Your patient's like, what are you going to show me?
Yeah, and you know what? One of the most recent innovations that I've seen, it has nothing to do with our company. It's called a product called SplashTop. So SplashTop's just a generic app you can get off, I think, the Microsoft Store, Apple Store, whatever. What it allows you to do is, instead of replacing every computer in the office with high-end graphics processing gaming computers, we get one high-powered laptop, for example, and we use SplashTop to stream into that computer and utilize its graphics processing. So again, I'm selling a CBCT that requires high-end gaming PCs to view all the features.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you to now replace all those computers. I'm asking you to get one or two high-end computers, and you can stream into that.
Oh, very cool.
So that's what 3Shape uses for their wireless scanners, and what allows them to just literally bring the wireless scanner from room to room.
Right.
And it is opening a lot of doors for people.
Well, it's making that initial investment that much easier to swallow too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Space is at a premium in an office.
Totally.
As well.
I mean, we're typically seeing tiny, small form factor computers with no big power supplies. They're just
cubes.
Correct. And I mean, they're basically running their practice management software with some 2D imaging that requires no power from the computer.
And it's just sitting in behind the monitor, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like it doesn't exist.
100%. Everything's getting smaller. Aesthetics are driving, the design of offices. People are more particular about that.
Yeah, we're going to a spa now. And we'll go back to the conversation that I've been having with my family, is that's where it's going. Like it's all about patient experience. It's all about decreasing anxiety. And how do you do that? By showing people in the chair what you're doing and what's going on, and having the proper tools in place to make, like, obviously there's going to be some pain there. It's but reducing.
That's right.
And just having that nice like spa music in the background, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, just from my experience as being a child in the dental office versus now, it's completely changed.
Yeah.
So for the better, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you got on screen here? Like I want to talk about this.
Yeah. So shameless Vatek plug. I'd like to show
you. Now's the time.
Now's the time.
Let's do some shameless stuff.
Cool. So again, at Vatek, we create CBCT devices, 2D pans. Just wanted to show you a few cool features, artificial intelligence that's incorporated in our software. So, this isn't special. We have 16:9 CBCT, really high quality, all that good stuff. One of the main things we're seeing is doctors getting more involved in airway. The more and more research I do about airway and talking to doctors, there's a bunch of them in the Lower Mainland that airway centric. If your airway is collapsed or impeded in any way, it can really affect the rest of the oral cavity, to the point where you could replace crowns and do some braces and stuff, but if you don't address this airway issue, all of this may be for naught, and we may be repeating the same thing over and over again. So there's kind of this concept it's a smaller group of people, but thinking kind of airway out instead of kind of just staying in the oral cavity.
So that ties right into the occlusion then, jaw positioning?
Absolutely. And I mean, you look at patients that went for ortho, let's say 20 years ago, and the orthodontist just extracted a bunch of teeth to move along, and now the airway is just getting pushed back and pushed back.
I see that with people that have done Invisalign too.
Huge, exactly. So instead of pushing back, I think I'm not a doctor, so please. But the idea is expanding the upper arch for people that have restricted airways, and I think
sorry, not like ortho in general. Yeah. I'm not throwing shade on Invisalign. Sorry. Yeah. Clear aligners?
Yeah. No, in general. No,
it's... The line's coming after me now.
So, a lot of doctors, when they take a CBCT, they'll take a 12:9, which is essentially everything that is in your oral cavity. You're going to see your impacted teeth, just kind of a general, but you may expand it to a 16:9. Maybe the patient is presenting signs of, sleep apnea. So I think it's important for doctors to look beyond just what they get paid for. And like, hey, your husband has been snoring. You've complained to me in the chair. Let's take a CBCT and let's work with an ENT and figure out, is this actually happening? I mean, that sort of value that you can pass on to a patient that's beyond your scope is invaluable. I mean, you may have saved someone's life. Like, these people aren't even breathing at night, right? Yeah. Their wife's about to divorce them. They've got a separate bedroom, all this sort of stuff. And you as a dentist, their friend, the professional has taken this CBCT, and we're just going to quickly measure the airway. I mean, so within 2 clicks, we can just tell this patient do we have a concern? Do we not? In a 2D plane, we don't really get the full picture. So the CBCT allows us to do that. So when I launch this now, I'll just apply this. So now we get to see the full render of that airway, the area. Basically, it's really simple. Red means bad, blue's good.
Mm-hmm.
And some dentists, this is as far as they're going to take it. They're going to say, hey, we notice all red. You should take this scan, go to an ENT.
Get a sleep study.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that just one component of VOTEC that I feel people are underutilizing. And again, it seems to be a lot of doctors aren't taking scans because they feel like they're liable or they have to spend.
we chatted about this before. It's true.
Yeah. So I'll segue into a company that, again, I don't deal with at all, but they marry well with our CBCT product line. So as a dentist taking large volume or medium volume CBCT, you have a responsibility to read that data. Mm-hmm. If you're not comfortable, if you haven't taken courses, which there's tons, we have a webinar coming up on October 20th with beam readers. But if you're uncomfortable with that, you need some way of getting that information, a report on the scan. So there's this company called DiagnaCat. They are Health Canada approved, and this is a software artificial intelligence company that can take your scan, you upload it, and within 5 minutes, it's telling you all the abnormalities inside the patient. It's telling you how many canals on a tooth, is the horizontally impacted tooth interfering with the nerve, anything. It's wild. So there's a guy named Doug. He represents the company. If you do have a CBCT of any brand, I highly suggest looking at that website. It's a subscription-based service. There we go.
Another shameless plug. This is cool. This little guy was moving around for me. Here, look at that.
Yeah. I think if you just go to get started, it's a really straightforward. There we go. Fine.
Sorry.
It
is, though. It is.
Yeah. So one of the a KOL that we have at VOTEC in Edmonton, Dr. Neki Jamal, he prides.
Neki.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been on the show. He's great.
Yeah. So his whole thing is wisdom tooth extraction and getting the GP to feel more comfortable and confident with that.
Yep.
And DiagnaCat is what he uses to segment the scan out, understand what it's there. I mean, he could do this by himself, but he's letting a software just do it for him. Yeah. Which, why not?
Or aid it, like aiding him in doing it. Yeah.
100%. I mean, he has to still perform the surgery. Yeah. He still has to do, but why not use the technology available to essentially, like we were talking before, be your assistant?
I don't want to guess. If I'm a dentist,
me too.
I don't ever want to guess.
No, I don't like that.
No, that's kind of, yeah.
And it's almost like, I think back in the day, you'd have a complicated case. And now you're working with a specialist. You have like 3 or 4 peers involved. And I think that's still great. I think networking with peers, tangible, real people is good. But this is almost like having a peer sitting right next to you in your computer. Mm-hmm. So again, anyone who has, I don't get paid for this or anything, but anyone who has a CBCT, I would highly encourage you to at least try a demonstration of it.
You can book a demo.
It's absolutely the crazy thing too. It's not FDA cleared, but it's Health Canada approved, which people in the States are dying for this software right now.
I bet. Yeah. We talk about like technology and staff and everything, and it's kind of like it's interesting how things eventually balance themselves out. Mm-hmm. We're fulfilling some of the man hours, the women hours in the office with software.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, people can't find staff.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like, I don't know if COVID like kind of boosted this trajectory. I think it did. I think our reliance on people and we need other resources. And I think there's lots of dentists, especially in like remote communities, that are just like, how like attracting staff, the price of houses, the whole thing, right?
Also too, maybe staff isn't an issue, but software enhances your staff's ability and 100%. Your ability to serve your patients.
100%. I mean, that's why all doctors have practice management software and don't write out of a ledger, right? I mean, it helps you. It helps you do recalls. It helps you understand what's been billed and run metrics on your business. How well are we doing in tooth whitening this year and all that sort of stuff.
It's the whole bleedy bucket concept, right? It allows you to have that thermometer to eliminate things that you're missing. Like you can't, there's no way you can have an eyeball on the entire practice from back of the house to the front of the house. There's no way.
No, and I mean the amount of doctors now that own 2 or 3 clinics, small DSOs, as you will. I mean, it just becomes even more difficult. So,
exactly.
Yeah. I would love to show you something else.
Please.
Okay. So
shamelessly.
So one of the things that that we focus on, I'm just gonna reset this, is how do we get patients to accept cases, right? I mean, we're in a dental office. We need to explain to this customer visually and verbally what the treatment's going to be. So there's a unique feature in our software that artificially understands what's tooth and what's bone. So it allows me to extract a tooth without it actually being extracted. So let's say in this case, they've done an endo, it's gone far enough. There's nothing we can do other than extraction. The patient really just wants an understanding. So we can digitally extract that tooth. So we digitally extracted tooth 4-6. We insert implant into tooth 4-6. We put a crown on it. Obviously, I'm ripping through here. Choose our implant that we like. I'll choose Straumann because it's very popular.
No, he's got no. Straumann isn't paying him.
No. And I just insert, and within 3 clicks, it's inserted in the location. Well, I have a crown. It's not. None of this is going to be the final outcome. We're typically, when a patient comes for an implant, we're taking a CBCT. Patient leaves. Doctor works through the workup and then proposes something. In this scenario, patient's still there. We know that the tooth needs to be extracted. We know an implant. Who cares what brand it is, what size? We just want to show the patient what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Then we may take it a step further, right? We may say, okay, this is the proposed implant. We can go take some screenshots, and we can go to this consult tab.
Oh, wow.
And we can take specific screenshots of this patient and then show an accompanying video that educates the patient of exactly what that treatment is all about.
Is that red circle a nerve?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Cool. This is sweet.
So there's video libraries. I mean, I think there's over 300 different video libraries. There's endo videos. Just, again, a whole bank of videos so that you can visually show your patients what's about to happen and narrate it, and then have a specific shot of the patient next to it. So I think that's really cool.
And like, this is exactly what we were just talking about. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, use everything at your disposal, right? I hate assumptions, right? Like, I explained it to the patient. Or me as a sales rep, I explained it to the doctor. Well, they're looking for more than that.
Well, use everything in your disposal, but make sure that if you've invested in a piece of equipment, that you know how to use it, like to what it was developed to do, to its entirety.
That's a huge. I mean, you hit on something major there. I think I do these trainings. The doctors are opening up a clinic. They've got a training on a sterilizer, on a cabinet, So I would say any office that's opening up, have people come back 4, 6 months, a year later. Most of us are willing to come back and do a refresher. I want you to use the most out of your equipment. But the idea of doctors only using 10% of the capability is something, it just, it hurts me.
And it's kind of on you, I guess, on you as the responsible guy. But what do you do?
I try. I mean, one of the biggest things, though, we sell CBCTs and doctors ask, okay, how do I bill this, right? Most insurance does not cover CBCT.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So again, if we're looking for insurance to dictate how we're going to treat our patients, we're going to be in the 1980s, right? So what we want to do is build the cost of the scan into the treatment. So if you're doing an implant and it was $6,000, for example, now it's $6,300.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
It's the easiest way to do that, and people see it. It just goes over well. Patients don't seem to fight back.
Well, especially if you're kind of consolidating the entirety, like the entire cost into one cost. I know, like, when you're looking at the invoice sometimes and you see those line items, right?
Yeah.
What? I paid X percent for what's this fee?
Yeah. Well, and what I'm trying
to
teach dentists is like, if I come in with an edentulous space and I have an implant, of course, you're taking a CBCT, you're measuring buccolingual, you're placing an implant. But what we're seeing is there's a lot of studies out that show like a medium field of view, 12/9 CBCT. You're there for an implant. At 30% of those cases find some other treatment. One of the biggest ones is asymptomatic lesions. Asymptomatic lesions that start at the root tip will not show up on a 2D image until it's breached the cortical bone, basically until it's gone so far that we have major intervention at this point. So I'm trying to train dentists to utilize their CBCTs more often in conjunction with something like DiagnaCat, where now I'm taking a full volume or medium volume CBCT, I'm having a software run through and it's telling me all of the inconsistencies or things to look at. Because again, patient-centric, that patient has an asymptomatic lesion. Let's address it before it gets too bad.
It's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? Right?
That's what what I try to do. One other, again, shameless plug. We have the ability in our software, because we have the AI that segments tooth from bone, we can clearly see each canal in these teeth. And this is
soft tissue in there.
And this is a large volume scan. So it's something about all CBCTs, the larger the volume, the less defined the image is. So if I'm looking at an endo, I want to take the smallest volume, 4x4 or 5x5, for example. But even on this large scan, we can clearly see the endocanals. And what's really unique is all software in CBCT has had the ability to measure nerve canals, but now we're actually to measure the individual root of the tooth. So I can simply just start scrolling, and I'm just going to start measuring this canal.
You're just taking it down in layers? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm actually going up the tooth over here because I'm on the maxillary.
Yeah,
I'm just scrolling, and I'm just looking where the blood flow is of that canal, and I'm just clicking just like a nerve canal would be. And then when I get to the end, I double click. I can name it whatever I want.
Badass canal.
And then I can see my exact working length, 17.27. I can see how the curvature is in the canal. So this is completely unique to Vautech. They invested in this software to do this. And it's a game changer.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you're not going to break your files anymore. Maybe.
I think oftentimes, my biggest market is GPs that dabble in surgery.
Sure.
And it's more of like, am I going to do this or am I going to send this out? Yeah. And that's just as valuable as anything, right? Like, hey, I took this scan. The root is going all over the place. You're going off to the specialist. See you later.
Peace out. You're going to the endodontist.
100%. Yeah. I mean, other last shameless thing. It used to be.
There's never a last shameless thing,
I know,
Curtis.
It just keeps going.
You shameless it up. This is it.
Most CBCTs you have to do when you take an image, you have to plot the arch. Because most doctors, when they're planning implants, want to plan on a 2D plane, even though it's in 3D, as we can see. But they like it on a 2D plane. And this is really cool because I can actually take this box around, and wherever this line is, this is the representation. I haven't had to go and click through those arches. It's just automatically done. And what's really, it seems so ridiculous, but the ability to tilt this to be in line or parallel to the tooth that's incoming is huge. Most softwares are actually restricted like this. So then you're coming into the tooth on a 45.
Yeah.
It's not making sense. So other features, we can click the implant and it knows the bone density around that implant, which is very, very beneficial.
That's super important.
Yeah. So that's it.
You got no more? Come on. There's going to be another one.
Yeah, I mean, again, a few different things. Like because we manufacture all of our components, we have a full 10-year warranty on our CBCTs. So it's unique.
Cool.
That's pretty unique. Yeah.
Well, sir, yeah. I feel like we're going to have some more sessions. I feel it.
I do too.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming to the studio. It's always nice having folks in here with me.
It was a pleasure. It's nice in here if you have an opportunity.
Yeah, we've really done it up here at Dentist on Demand. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Final question is Curtis, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Wow. That's I'm going to say no.
Okay.
No.
All right.
You need more. You need more than bun and meat.
All right. Perfect. Hey, there's no wrong answer.
Okay.
So. Anyways, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been nice having you in studio with me. Any questions for Curtis? How do we get a hold of you, Curtis?
My email is ctaylor@vautechamerica.com. My Instagram page is vautech_Canada. My wife runs it. I have no connection. I don't like social media, so she does it all for me.
I'll have it. It's all in the description below.
Yeah.
So if you scroll down, it will be all in the description.
Thank
Curtis,
you.
thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.